The strike was never meant to land. That was the unspoken truth hanging in the air when the commander stepped forward, jaw tight, eyes cold with humiliation. He raised his hand not as a lesson, but as a warning. 502 Navy SEALs stood watching, breaths held, boots planted, certain they were about to witness a public correction. What they saw instead would echo through the compound for years. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're rewatching from. I love knowing who's listening. Her name was Elara Voss, and she had learned early that silence could be mistaken for weakness. She stood on the sun-bleached training ground, wind tugging at loose strands of hair, hands relaxed at her sides. The day had already gone wrong. A misinterpreted order. Correction delivered too sharply. Laughter that lingered a moment too long. Elara felt it all, each glance weighing her down, but she kept her face calm. She always did. The commander paced in front of her, voice clipped, words edged with something personal. He was respected, decorated, untouchable. Elara knew the rules. She knew the imbalance of power. She also knew the line that should never be crossed. When his hand moved, time fractured. The air shifted, thick and electric. Dust lifted from the ground as if startled. Elara's heart didn't race, it steadied. This was the moment she'd hoped would never come. She thought she'd never see him again after today. She was wrong. She didn't strike out of anger. She struck out of necessity. Elara stepped inside the arc of his motion, close enough to smell the starch on his uniform. Her fist rose once, clean and precise, guided by years of discipline she had never spoken about. The impact was dull, final. The commander's eyes widened, surprise overtaking authority, and then he fell hard down to the packed earth. Silence crashed down. 502 SEALs stood frozen, the sea of hardened faces stripped of expression. No cheers, no gasps, just disbelief, rolling outward like a shockwave. Elara stood where she was, breath even, hands trembling only slightly now that the danger had passed. She looked at the man on the ground and felt a flicker of sorrow. This was not how she wanted to be seen. Orders barked. Medics rushed forward. Someone shouted for everyone to stand down. The moment splintered into chaos, but Elara felt detached, as if watching herself from afar. She knew what came next: investigations, whispers, consequences that would land heavier on her than anyone else. As she was escorted away, murmurs followed. Some sharp with judgment. Others hushed with awe. One voice low, sincere, said he crossed the line. Elara didn't turn to see who spoke. She didn't trust herself to respond. In the hours that followed, the truth surfaced slowly, stubbornly. Witness statements aligned. Cameras confirmed what eyes had seen. The commander had raised his hand first. The rules were clear, even when power tried to blur them. Elara sat alone in a quiet room, palms resting on her knees, replaying the moment again and again. She questioned herself, not the strike, but the cost. She had spent her life mastering control, believing restraint was the highest form of strength. Today, restraint had looked like surrender. No, she would not surrender. Night fell over the compound, lights flickering on like watchful eyes. When the door finally opened, she braced herself. Instead of accusation, she found understanding. A senior officer spoke softly, not as a superior, but as a witness to something larger than protocol. "You did what you had to," he said, "and you did it clean." Word spread by morning, not gossip recognition. The SEALs watched her differently now, not with mockery, not with challenge. With respect that had been earned the hardest way possible. One by one, nods replaced whispers. Space was made for her where none had existed before. Elara didn't celebrate. She visited the infirmary instead. The commander was awake, bruised, silent. She stood at the doorway, unsure if she was welcome. He looked at her for a long moment, then nodded once. An acknowledgement, not an apology. It was enough. She walked back into the sunlight feeling lighter, though nothing about her situation was simple. Justice, she realized, was rarely clean. Courage often demanded a price. And dignity was not something granted, it was something defended. That evening, as the wind moved across the flags and the compound settled into its familiar rhythm, Elara stood among the ranks once more. No one laughed. No one tested her. They stood together, unified by a shared understanding. Strength is not about dominance, it's about boundaries. Because respect isn't taken by force, it's earned by courage. And sometimes the bravest act isn't throwing a punch. It's knowing exactly when you must. If this story resonated with you, share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice matters here. Subscribe to Whispered Words for more stories of hidden strength, moral courage, and moments that redefine power. Because the quietest stand can be the loudest lesson of all.